2 weeks after Len Brown won the election, Rodney Hyde has suddenly announced the need to create a new super city council to overrule the super city council.
Uber council.
Why an Uber council? Why has this only been announced now? And would Rodney create a super council, an Uber council, if John Banks had won?
I think it wouldn't have been necessary.
Yes.
But what I think he's doing in a very cack-handed sort of a way is he's trying to set up a subcommittee of which he is head of, a committee of cabinet, in which he can filter all of these things out, and him and I don't know, Stephen Joyce probably
crazy idea,
will get to filter the things out that they don't like and then only approve the things that they do. That's what I think he's trying to set
Didn't we just
here.
get rid of all of these multi-councils for this exact purpose, so we could have one
Oh, he's
voice
saying
that
it.
speaks?
Well, he would say it's streamlining the situation. It's one point of contact. That's what he'll be.
Why is this the first time we've heard
Oh, like
about
a
it?
minister for Auckland.
Yeah, that's right. Why is it, exactly? Why is this the first time we've suddenly heard of this new Uber council?
Well,
Because Len Brown won?
Yes.
Right, that's what it is about,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, I think so.
Penny, you would think annexing Auckland under a misuse of urgency, denying Māori any representation and appointing the CCOs minus the promised consultation would be enough for Rodney. But setting up a new super council to overrule Len Brown is getting a little pathological now, isn't it? Why does Rodney Hyde hate Auckland so much?
I think Rodney has completely missed the point of what the election has delivered up. The community have said they trust people who do genuinely represent their communities. They've elected a pretty moderate bunch of consensus builders from both sides of the fence who are going to get together and work collaboratively to make the council and the city work. And for some reason, this just seems to be scaring Rodney senseless. He set this up. We've all suffered this because he said Auckland needs to speak with one voice and Wellington will listen. Now, to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I can't believe I'm saying this, he might be setting up a cabinet committee to facilitate that happening. But sadly, you know, as it does with Rodney, the cracks open up and we see the real agenda. You know, I mean, we just need a bit of reality. We do need to be able to work well with Wellington.
Of course.
We will work well with Wellington, whether Rodney facilitates that or not. End of story.
But allowing
and we will meet with the ministers that we need to meet with.
I mean, he
not for long.
Despite the ACT Party implosion that's going to happen.
The ACT Party is imploding. You think he's going to stay on Epsom? Come on.
The way things are going, it's looking pretty chronic for them. It honestly is. And number 8 on their list, if he comes on, if Roger Douglas decides to resign,
please,
Rodney's arch nemesis comes on, and then it's all on. It's open warfare.
Tim, who wins, who loses by forcing local body politicians to do as the lawyers advise, and Rodney building a new super council?
Well, I think the people who win are going to be the developers, and I think the people who win mainly are going to be the lawyers. And that's why I was asking Penny before about cutting their budget back significantly. Penny,
who wins, who loses by forcing local body politicians to do as the lawyers advise, and Rodney building a new Uber council?
I don't think anyone's going to lose Bomber because, to be blunt, we have set up a new paradigm, a new way of operating and a new council, and we simply don't need to be frightened by over-enthusiastic legal advice. We need to work well with our lawyers, but we certainly don't need one lawyer to rule them all. And I think Rodney's Uber Council is nonsense.
Thank you, panel. Coming up, did Labour just lose mana? Matt McCartan stands for Unite. Should Chris Farfoy be looking for a communications role with the new Super City? Citizen A is back after the break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Citizen A. We're reviewing the week with bloggers Tim Salmon and Deputy Mayor of the Super City, Penny Hulse. Issue 3 this week. Did Labour just lose mana? Matt McCartan stands for Unite. Should Chris Farfoy be looking for a communications role with the new Super City? Tim, you think this has more to do with Matt's health issues than any real chance of winning?
I do, actually.
But a by-election throws up interesting results, doesn't it? You think mana has ever been fought like this before?
You think he's got a chance, don't you?
I'm not ruling it out. I'm not ruling it out. It's a huge working class area.
He's very passionate.
His issues really resonate with working class people. I'd say much better than Chris's would.
Where's his union background? Matt McCartan's got it all over him, hasn't he? On paper, at least. Because Chris Farfoy, I think, was Phil Goff's press secretary or something. I don't know if his CV is still live with him or whatever. He can reapply or something. But I don't think Matt's got a chance, really.
No.
I mean, it's just so solidly Labor.
Well, it's
honestly.
solidly left.
I love
It's
the
solidly
spin. I
left.
love the spin.
It's
No, I
solidly
think on
left.
paper, I think Matt's got it on paper.
Yeah.
But because of that tribal Labor vote,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to find it basically impossible to win. And unfortunately, the spectre is if Matt puts in a really good showing, Hikia Parata from the National Party, well, all they have to do is just keep up their vote, and they've split it.
Aren't
and the
they
unthinkable
eliminated?
will
Aren't
happen.
they eliminated
It's
in
not.
this debate?
Well, I'm saying the majority in Mana isn't going to be so huge as to eliminate the possibility of national winning. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, best of luck to Matt,
Yeah.
of course, and he's got such a solid background.
Yeah.
But I think mainly it's a campaign issue for his union, really, and to
Yeah.
motivate and build up the Unite Union, which represents the lowest paid workers of them all, basically, and build that base up, sort of like it is here in Auckland.
Yep.
He's very well organised in Auckland.
Has Mana ever been fought like this before, though? I mean, usually
can't recall
they
it,
just get the Labor candidate, they get the National Party, they vote
Like
for Labor.
puppets and stuff,
Suddenly,
and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But this time round, they've got Matt. They've got Matt.
I love that he's thrown in it.
He does a great crowd pleasing speech.
He does, and he's got all those union workers as
does.
well, and it will ignite them, and I think
Yes.
they're going to be very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
But I do think, as you said before, well, my suspicion is that he's thinking about his own mortality,
Yep.
really, and he's going, maybe this is the last chance I've got, maybe this is the last chance
And
I've got.
it may well be, which would give people even an
I don't
extra
think it
reason
will
to
be. I
vote.
don't think it will be.
Who's not going to turn
He's a
down
fit
vote
guy.
for-
He's a fit guy.
Dying
He-
man's wish. Who doesn't want to give a dying man their
He-
wish?
he looks
Who
good
doesn't?
to me.
Who
He
doesn't,
looks
who doesn't
fine.
want to do that? Who doesn't want to do that? People care. People love.
I don't know how you'd put that in some sort of a slogan or whatever, but
I'm working on it. Penny, John Banks undervalued the poor brown vote in Auckland.
He
Has
sure
Labor
did.
done the same in Mana with Chris Farfoy as a candidate?
I think they may well have, and I'm just, listening to what Tim's saying. I mean, Matt can galvanise the grassroots and the real people. I think the bit that makes me sad, however, if as a fan of Matt's, I don't think he's a fan of mine, but I think he's an extraordinary intellect. I would love to see Matt use his time and energy to actually really put forward a good thesis on how does the left reconnect, how does the left go forward, and how do we use some of his skills and
come on,
and
you
his
can't just
brain.
do a Bruce Jesson lecture. You want him out on the hustings.
And both, but he has some extraordinary things to say, and if you think of Bruce Jesson's legacy, which has been, it's rippled out and
Yeah,
still continues
that's
to
true,
ripple
that's
out.
true, that's
There's
true.
a role for Matt doing that as well.
Yeah.
So we don't want him to use all his energy on the hustings.
Very good point, very good point. To a quick question to both of you, has Labor taken Mana for granted? Have they?
Not now.
Not now.
Not now. It's in play.
Yes, now,
It's in play. But only, I would suggest, just to stop National winning rather than to stop Matt winning, because I just don't think that's realistic.
Yep.
But Matt's probably going to do a really good job, and his Unite Union is going to be the major beneficiary here.
Yep.
If you're going to ask me who wins and who
Yeah,
loses,
who
it
wins?
always
They,
be.
has Labor taken Mana for granted?
I think after Auckland, Labor can probably realise they can never take anything for granted. They
Yes.
need to mobilise and motivate, and they should be doing the same.
Hasn't
now.
Labor done an awful job in Auckland? Haven't they done an awful job in reconnecting with Aucklanders?
The bit that breaks my heart with this is that the left always seem to kind of spend time on the theory rather than out there with the people.
Amen,
And
sister, amen.
when Lentz suddenly looked like he was going to be winning, that connection happened and the miracle happened. But it took a lot of talking to get people out there into the real
remind
world.
them exactly. Let's wrap the show with last word. Tim, your last word this week is?
Well, I'd just like to say that the tenders closed this week for the trenching and the broadband rollout and how that's going to happen, how it's going to go underground. As I pointed out in another Citizen A, that unfortunately those guys who got all the wonderful new concreted footpaths, you're probably going to be the last on the list
Ever.
to get it.
Yeah.
Now there's micro trenching options and so forth, but this is so important because at the moment with those power lines, it's a duopoly situation, and Vector on the one hand and Telecom on the other have the market sewn up, because no community board and the council will not allow other lines to be strung along and block the landscape like they have done in Wellington.
Right.
And unfortunately that means we're going to be paying higher prices, there will be less options, and I really wish for once, and I always go to the Auckland City Council about this, now I guess I'll have to go to your council, Penny, and suggest that All of this stuff about, well, we're coordinating the undergrounding with footpaths is an absolute lie. It's never been done. It never has been. And there ought to be some sort of a special commissioner dedicated to make sure that happens, because unless that conduit is put in there, it's not going to happen.
And also a very, very interesting blog you did this week on your predictions for the election next year.
Oh, the general election.
You came to the conclusion early.
Well, working backwards, I'm saying what's the last possible date is actually 2012, January 7th. Working back, and you go, well, you've got Christmas, you can't have it then, and you go, you've got the World Cup, Rugby World Cup right in the middle there between September, October, and you go, well, if you're going to have it after the World Cup, and the South Pacific Forum is going to be hosted in Auckland,
that's right,
just beforehand, early September, and you've got to go, well, it's going to be in late November, but to work that out means we're going to basically know by the 11th, I've worked it out, the 11th of July, we're going to know yes or no whether we're going to have an election in August, because the next possible date is going to be all the way in very late November.
The rumour is August, isn't it? The rumour around
all I'm saying,
August.
and if the Labour Party gets smart or whatever, and they said, well, let's stage manage these by-elections. Hawkins is going in Mararewa, let's have him go a little bit early, maybe convince Chris Carter, or maybe he might get a job or something with Alan Clark or whatever, and then you stage manage it, and so you get a rolling mall of elections, and basically it will undermine National. So what are they going to do? They might well go early.
Penny, your final word for the show?
Before that, just to say on broadband, if we started with some of our rural areas and outlying areas, our fantastic and clever visionary people who work from home will be supported. That will sort out the congestion for the roads, no footpaths to worry about. That needs to happen immediately.
Yes.
My final word is just, I guess, going back to Auckland and the elections and thinking about the community in their wisdom and voting with head and heart have delivered up a council of people who want to work collaboratively, who want to bring the community into council, who want to work to build consensus. My worry is we get sworn in on Monday. Suddenly, once we become the politicians of Auckland, we will be seen as weak, as unsure, not sure-footed, not showing direction and leadership because we choose to continue to work in that way. So I guess it's just a challenge to the media and the good people of Auckland. Have a really good look at what suddenly moving to a strong leadership model might be and what you might lose, and think about social media and alternative medias and wonderful blogs for information and not just relying on some of our mainstream media.